except I'm fogging up. Can't see. That was supposed to be like the cool flip the visor down. Let's go to work. Happy Earth Day, everybody. It is great to be out and about, back on the bike again. I have my first ride video coming out soon. But first, I wanted to honor Mother Earth and thank her for all the great riding that we're going to have this year. But there's something that kind of sort of scares me that's on the horizon. Could happen, might not happen, not sure, but I wanted to let you guys know about it. So then that way we can get prepared. It's about us dumping oil. Now, I'm not saying that we have to get rid of all of our combustion engines, all of our engines that run on fossil fuels. No. And I'm not saying it for climate change, although that is a good reason. I mean, riding through fires, floods, and droughts isn't my exactly idea of fun. In case you don't believe in climate change, or you don't think it's as bad as it is, then I've got another really good reason for us to be dumping oil here sooner rather than later. We'll get to all that and more coming right up. So please stay tuned. Let's go for a ride. For those that don't know me, my name is Dawn, aka Irish Bob's sister. And in my 50 plus years around the sun on the spaceship we call Earth, I had a lot of great motorcycle adventures. Made a lot of friends that have become family. So if you want to learn more about Harley, what it's like to work at a dealership, or more about motorcycling in general, then you should hit that subscribe button right now. Let's go to work. So I apologize in advance for the Matt Laidlaw-ish voiceover I'm going to be doing with this video. It's just that I don't want to miss anything. I want to make sure that I get all the information out to you, and then you can inform your own decisions, your own beliefs of what's going on in the world. I filmed, edited, and posted this video because I care about you and you and you too. All of us on the planet, we all have integral parts and bits to do here. We're all small little puzzle pieces that come together in a beautiful picture. I'm telling you because I care. I've had some amazing adventures, great times riding with friends who became family, riding up into the mountains, down by the lake, and through the valleys, with scenery so beautiful it made me cry. I was so grateful to be right in the middle of all that exquisiteness. Those are the kinds of things that I very much like to keep happening. And I'd like to know what adventures you've had on your motorcycle. Was there an experience that you had so much fun in, you'd relive it in a heartbeat if you could? Or have you been so privileged to see such raw beauty that it moved you to your core? Drop me a comment down below and let me know. I generally like to hear about your best adventure. Back to some good reasons to dump our dependence on oil. Because I'm sure, like me, you'd like to have those adventures continue. And trying to ride through fires, floods, and droughts, thanks to climate change, doesn't sound like fun to me at all. I'm not here to debate climate change. You're your own grown-ass person. You can do your own research and decide for yourself. I will say that I used to be one of those people that says, the climate has been changing for thousands of years. How are we to know it wouldn't be happening now without us here? There's no way for us to prove that. Then I found out that yes, there is actually a way to prove that, thanks to examples of ice cores that the scientists have taken from glaciers in Greenland and the Antarctic. Those samples prove that CO2, methane, and other greenhouse gases have increased exponentially since the Industrial Revolution began. These gases that we've put into our atmosphere are kind of like cooking with a cast iron skillet. In case you haven't cooked with cast iron, the main difference is that it holds the heat a lot longer than a regular pot or pan. You've really got to watch your food because if you're not careful, you'll burn whatever you're cooking, even after you turn off the heat. Except we haven't turned down the heat at all when it comes to greenhouse gases. It seems to me that we just keep turning it up. And folks, between you and me, we're going to get burned pretty badly if we don't at least begin to reduce our dependence on oil and fossil fuels, in more ways than one. So, climate change, that's my main reason for wanting to dump oil and fossil fuels. Like I said, I'm not here to debate climate change. That being said, I realize there's quite a few people who don't believe in it, or maybe don't think it's as dire a situation as it truly is. That's why when I learned of this other really good reason for us to give up the black gold or Texas tea,
Oil, that is, black gold, Texas tea,
I knew I had to share it with all of you. And this lesson I learned thanks to Sorrell's Finance channel on YouTube has me nearly as scared as the climate crisis does. First though, a quick history of how we got so immersed into this oil swamp. Let's go back in time to the 1970s when good old Tricky Dick was in the White House. I'm talking about President Richard Nixon. While there, in addition to making some tapes, he did a couple of other things like 1. Took the US dollar off the gold standard in 1971, meaning that the US did not have to back up all the printed money with gold in its vaults. Nixon gave some really good reasons for doing this, although most people believe that it was because we were running out of the shiny yellow metal. Number 2. In 1973, the oil embargo begins. Saudi Arabia decides to place an embargo on the oil exports as a way to punish the US, Canada, the UK, and a few other countries for our roles in the Yom Kippur War. This drove up the price of the barrel of oil by 300%. I remember when I was a kid, my mom and I waiting in long gas lines wondering if we'd even be able to get gas. Sometimes my dad would have to siphon gas from one car to the other just so he could get to work. Some countries imposed bans on flying, driving, and boating on certain days of the week. Others enacted rations on gas and electricity, since diesel motors were and are still used to create energy. This is also when the U.S. set the national speed limit at 55 miles an hour as a way to reduce the consumption of gas. Number 3. Finally, in 1974, the U.S. reaches an agreement with Saudi Arabia. We, the U.S., would buy oil from them and supply them with weapons. In return, they, Saudi Arabia, would park their petrodollars in our treasuries and finance our spending, meaning that oil trading took place using U.S. dollars. And shortly after that, a lot of other countries followed suit. So, we went from the gold standard to the oil standard, and now, today, 80% of the world's oil trading is done in the US dollar, thanks in large part to that deal. Between then and now, not much has changed. Most of the world is heavily dependent on oil to make transportation fuel, fuel oils for heating and producing electricity, asphalt and road oil, as well as making chemicals, plastics, and other synthetics. Saudi Arabia hasn't changed much either, in that they are still ruled by a monarchy. Currently, King Salman sits on the throne, although his son, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, or MBS for short, is up and coming and making a lot of the day-to-day decisions on how their country is run. In addition to being the prince, MBS also serves as the Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Defense, the Chairman of the Council of Economic and Developmental Affairs, and chairman of the Council of Political and Security Affairs of Saudi Arabia. And he has been named by the king to be the next king of the country. This makes the prince more of a de facto ruler of the kingdom. Now, all this might not seem like a big deal. After all, the U.S. does get our oil from a lot of different countries as well as producing our own. Why should we care what's happening with Saudi Arabia? It's all about to come full circle, I promise. Recent events like the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi in 2018, a lot of Western countries see MBS as the one who officially ordered the hit. In 2019, there was a strike on Saudi oil facilities that then President Trump refused to respond to. And there's the current President Biden's campaign trail pledge to make them a pariah, refusing to deal personally with the prince. All of this has not gone over well with the oil-rich country. Let's not forget that Saudi Arabia is also upset that the U.S. doesn't fully support their war in Yemen against the Houthis. Up pops China, making all nice, especially since they do a lot of business with the Saudis. Since 2016, China has been talking about the possibility of buying oil contracts in the yuan, their currency. Reported last month, these discussions have gained a lot of traction lately. Remember, currently 80% of the sales of oil happen using U.S. currency. If MBS and the Saudis agree to taking the yuan, then other countries could follow. Add in the fact that China and Russia could create a financial system to rival the Western nations. This is due to the sanctions placed on Russia thanks to their invasion of Ukraine. And now China is also reporting more lockdowns due to yet another coronavirus surge. All this has led the IMF, International Monetary Fund, to warn that the world is at risk of splitting into two economic blocks as a tectonic shift puts an end to decades of globalization. Because if Saudi Arabia agrees to accepting the yuan as payment from China, other countries could follow suit. The supremacy of the US dollar is a central reason why we are able to impose these powerful sanctions on countries such as Russia and Iran, cutting them out of international financial transactions. Well, fucking great, Irish. What the hell are we supposed to do? What does all this mean for me? What can we do now? I promise there is something we can do. Now is the time to come together and form that big, beautiful picture I mentioned earlier. One thing that Sorrell and a few others have mentioned is to diversify if you can. Spend your US dollars and buy precious metals, Bitcoin, and or even trading for other currencies. And if we could lessen our dependence on oil, that would be huge. There are a number of ways we can do that. By choosing less plastic packaging, by buying organic fruits and vegetables. Pesticides are usually made up of oil. By buying shampoo, conditioner, dish and laundry soap that is based on natural ingredients, not oil. Buying locally made goods, less transportation involved to get them from their source to you. And jumping into a carpool or onto a bus or other public transportation when you're not having grand motorcycle adventures. Unless you can do this and get away with it. While we're at it, let's find cleaner, greener, more sustainable ways to produce energy. Imagine if all the homes had solar panels and little wind turbines that made enough energy to sell back to the power grid. Currently, the electricity only flows one way, from the power station to our businesses and homes. So we'd need to come up with a way to allow it to go in the other direction. But if we did that, and if we can create enough energy, we could potentially sell the energy we produce to other countries. These energy deals would be made in the US dollar since we're the ones in control. Bottom line is, we're bikers. And when faced with a challenge, we bikers can come up with a lot of ideas and solutions to get things fixed. While there is a lot of doom and gloom, there is also loads of potential and hope. The hope that the war in Ukraine will come to an end soon. The potential for us to change the world in a good way so that we can lessen our dependence on oil. The hope that we can repair the damage we've done to our planet so that it can continue to sustain us. and the hope that we all can live in peace. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching. I hope that you learned something as well as enjoyed this video. Maybe you even have an idea on how to change something for the better. If you did, please give me a thumbs up as well as drop me a comment down below and let me know what it is you have to say. And until next week, here's to many more motorcycle adventures to come. That is a hope I have for us all. Remember to please be safe, be kind to one another, ride when you can, and have fun.